Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. We have Coco Gauff versus Naomi Osaka for the 4th round matchup at the US Open. This should be a very exciting matchup. The head-to-head is 3-2 in favor of Coco Gauff. Before we get into the tactical matchup, the head-to-head, and of course ultimately my prediction, please do remember to that like button, do subscribe if you're new, and do leave a rating or review if you're listening on a podcast platform. Your support is greatly appreciated and really helps with the growth of the channel. Okay, before I talk about the tactical matchup, I want to very briefly touch on the head-to-head. 3-2, as I mentioned, in favor of Coco. In terms of all of the matches played, they've all been on hard court. And they've actually played once before at the US Open, which was 6 years ago. And Osaka got the win 6-3, 6-love, and was the #1 seed. Then they played at the Australian Open a year later. Coco got the win, even 6-3, 6-4. And then Osaka managed to then get the win in Cincinnati a year later, 4-6, 6-3, 6-4, and then Coco got the win in San Jose a year later, 6-4, 6-4. So they've had a very seesaw head-to-head, and then of course that match in Beijing where Coco is recorded as getting the win, but it was retirement from Osaka at 1 set apiece. Coco lost the first set 6-3 and then took the second 6-4. So we'll never know what would have happened in that one. These courts are pretty quick, like those Beijing courts, and I'm very intrigued to see how it plays out because I think Coco will be the favorite given her age, given how fresh she's been, how consistent she's been over the last X amount of months and even years now at this stage. For Osaka, though, she's playing some good tennis, and a lot of people, including myself, had her going quite deep at this tournament, and I had her making the semi-finals, which is a pretty big call, and I think I had her beating Coco. Do I still think the same? Let's see. Let's talk then about their route to this 4th round. So Gauff has been very, not streaky, but she's not been in great form. She's been working with a biomechanics coach to sort out her serve, which has been a real, pain point for her. It really has been for quite a few months now since that Roland Garros win. And even before that, she's the leading, she tops the leaderboard for most double faults on tour, which is not a stat you want to be topping. So she beat Tomljanovic in the first round in 3 very tight sets, and then beat Vekic in straight sets. And then Freck was a more polished performance, only dropping 4 games. That was a pretty impressive performance. Only the 4 double faults as well. There were 8 double faults against Vekic and then 10 against Tomljanovic. So clearly some issues on serve still, and I think she's rolling her serve in at times against Vekic. So what I would say is that Osaka has been the more solid of the two. Has she had an easier route? Maybe. I mean, Kasatkina is a tricky opponent, but I'm not sure whether she's more formidable than Tomljanovic, Vekic, and Freck at this stage, to be honest. Osaka beat Minin in the first round, 6-3, 6-4, then Baptiste 6-3, 6-1, who's also been playing good tennis, Baptiste, in fairness, and then beat Kasatkina, 6-love, 4-6, 6-3. Really good win for Osaka there as well, and Kasatkina, after that bagel in the first set, did well to recover in the second set. But Osaka's been serving well. If we look at her first serve win percentage against Kasatkina, she was at 74%. Against Baptiste, 69%. Against Minin, 68%. So pretty solid numbers there. And the ace count is pretty good. 9 against Kasatkina, 4 against Baptiste, and then 7 against Minin. From the back of the court, she's moving well. I would say she has been moving the best that she has since her comeback, and arguably as well as she did prior to her break, I would say. And in terms of the striking on the baseline, it's been very good. I think she's utilized the angles well. She looks very comfortable now on court, and it looks like she's really adjusted now to, I think, the comeback and playing week in, week out. So good, very good vibes from her in terms of conditioning, form, And I think her returning's also improved as well somewhat, which is a big plus, because I think that's something that she has talked about a lot, especially in her comeback, about really wanting to improve. And that is definitely an area where we've seen some significant improvement. So how does the match play out? How do the two players match up? Well, on the backhand wing, Gauff is extremely stable and solid, and Osaka has a very good backhand. I think for Osaka, she's going to have to be quite patient against Coco. She's going to have to play an extra shot or two or even 3 or 4 at times against Coco. She's so good movement-wise, defensively, moving out the corners, just really good at being able to get the ball back into court and also away from the opponent's hitting zone at times as well. That contact zone is very tricky at times for the opponent that's facing Coco to really feel comfortable playing at their rhythm. They don't feel like that's the case because she's able to hit with different types of variety. And we saw that with Sabalenka at the Roland Garros final. But for Osaka, I think she's going to be quite confident that she can play the rallies on her terms. And I think for her, what's going to be quite important is her serve +1. I think with Coco, and who's an incredible returner, if she's able to get a lot of returns into play for 1 and 2 a lot of those returns in deep, that's where then she has a really big advantage against Osaka, because I feel like in terms of being able to construct the point from neutral, I think she will be able to handle those situations better. Osaka's going to have to be on the front for a lot, because if she's on the back foot and Coco's going big on the forehand and being able to hit through the court and go line with the backhand, for example, which is one of her best shots, then Osaka's going to struggle, because defensively she is not anywhere near the caliber of player compared to Gauff when it comes to the defensive aspect. But when it comes to attacking and being offensive, that's where she's really at home. That's where she's going to be able to get the most success. And that means, I think, being very smart with her play. I think going in behind Coco at times is actually a very good ploy as well. Trying to hit the ball a little bit early and make sure that Coco's not able to read and adjust her little steps and movements when tracking down balls, when anticipating defensively. So I think those small little adjustments from Osaka are going to be quite key. I think she's going to have to play very aggressively and proactively and very brave tennis, to say the least. And we saw that when she played against Swiatek last year at Roland Garros. Swiatek is an incredible mover like Gauff, and Osaka essentially had to take the racket out of her hand, and she might have to do something similar against Gauff. The big positive, I guess, for Osaka is that Gauff is not serving particularly well. She did serve more solid against Freck, but the serve is still a point of pain, as I said in the past. If I was Osaka, I would be stepping on the second serve and being super aggressive on that. Gauff has been rolling that in, to be honest. And then I would try and enforce a lot of pressure on Gauff to then hit more on the second serve, and put more pressure on Gauff to make her feel like she has to make more first serves, and that could mean her taking more off the first serve, or at least being safer with her spots. And that then could mean that Osaka gets better looks on the first serve as well. I think Osaka needs to serve really well, because Gauff, as I said, is a very good returner, and that is pretty stable no matter how she's playing. She doesn't normally have many bad returning games, to be honest. So if I was Osaka, I'd be utilising the slider out wide, especially on the juice side into the Gauff forehand. We know that's the weaker of the two wings, and Osaka's got a very good serve down the tee on the ad side as well. But I think the variety is going to be key going into the body. Is not a bad shout to give Gauff not much to work with. I think Osaka is going to have to be very intelligent with her placement. I think for Gauff, she knows she can roll the serve in and she can back it up defensively and get to neutral quickly. So it's not as important, I don't think, for Gauff, the serve, as it is for Osaka. But her returning game will be key. And I also think that she needs to be very solid and have a lot of quality behind those serves to make sure that Osaka is not able to get into the return games and get to love 30, love 40, and really apply a lot of pressure on Gauff. Because the problem for Gauff is that if she's having to face a lot of break points, that's when the serve can also break down because of those pressure moments. So she needs to try and avoid being in really high pressure situations and moments on her own serve. And if she can avoid that, then she puts herself in a good position. But Osaka's going to do her best, of course, to make sure that she is in those high pressure situations, and will be thinking, look, if I can really apply pressure in the return games, then Gauff may potentially break down on serve, and that's going to be a real big plus for me, getting some free points in some of those instances. So in terms of predictions, I'm actually going to go and stick with my prediction of Osaka. I'm going to go Osaka in 3 sets. Gauff is just not playing anywhere near the level that I've seen from her at Roland Garros, for example, and I do wonder if she can really grit her teeth and grind through this one like she has the first 3 rounds. If she does, it'll be an incredibly impressive performance, and if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be someone like Gauff. But I think Osaka's playing well, and I feel like this is a big chance for her to push on at the US Open, make a big statement, and I do think she's playing well enough to get the win against Gauff and level the head-to-head. Let me know in the comment section below who you think is going to win and why. Thanks very much, guys. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you in the next video.